The Project Kuwait. Learn, live.
Okay, so in today's episode, we have a little bit of an open debate. It gets a little bit heated. It's about performance-enhancing drugs, and it's about the impact of them on elite sport, and actually whether we talk a lot about how athletes, whether they're eligible to compete, and when they're clean, and what actually is a clean athlete. We're just going to open it up. It's just full open debate onto the floor, and you guys can enjoy a little bit of a heated debate between me and Marty, and Meg just drops in with the science.
I got pulled out of the other room to join on this and basically just supervise. So.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a fun one. So
it involves baseball bats, knees being broken, whole bunch of things.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah, enjoy.
All this and more in today's episode.
Welcome to the project. It's a project battle today.
So this is a highly impromptu conversation that's born out of the fact that we were talking about whether we should have a competition in Kuwait where like it was just battle between boxers, and it was just for pride. There was no financial incentive, like no money or anything like that, and it was just for pride. But we should test. So like my argument was actually like obviously it's very expensive to test. That's why a lot of competitions don't do it. But we were kind of talking about actually who is actually eligible for competition based off of testing.
Well, look, there should be two separate categories. You can't have average guy like me that works his ass off going up against someone that is juicing. If you're juicing, that is totally your prerogative. Like it's your body. It's you do what you want to do with it. But at the end of the day, when you have some athletes that are coming into it, and
so just by juicing, we mean like taking performance
enhancing drugs. I mean, if you look at the MLB, Major League Baseball, Meg, I'm sure you're aware of this coming from the States. Major League Baseball, steroids ran rampant through the 90s and the early 2000s with Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds. Mark McGuire demolished the home run record. Barry Bonds came back a couple years later and destroyed it. This is a record that stood for like 60 years almost. And they would have never done that if they weren't on steroids. Who's
to say that?
No, there is skill involved. Who's to say that? There's statistics. Barry Bonds' head blew up 3 times its normal size. I mean, if you look at a picture of him in 1991 when he was drafted into the major leagues, the guy was a stick. And then all of a sudden he gained 50 pounds of lean muscle in his 30s. Like, that's insane. No way. I mean, like hormonal
peak when you're 20.
You're not gonna put on 40 pounds of muscle.
Testosterone is nosediving at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
sure.
There's skill. Don't get me wrong. There's skill involved in it. And I do believe that I pay to see some of these CrossFit athletes and some of these insane monsters that can just go, and they're taking every steroid known to mankind.
Just to make sure that we don't get pigeonholed into CrossFit. Like, really, we're talking about elite sport in general.
Yes, strongman, CrossFit, bodybuilding, definitely bodybuilding.
I'm talking sprinting. I'm talking American
sprinting.
Football.
Yep. Dude, American football
Olympic
is a
weightlifting.
joke.
I'm talking like any elite sport where there is millions of dollars in sponsorship money at hand.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be performance enhancing drugs involved. And my argument would be that actually, like, if someone has because someone has been caught. I mean, to come back to your point about MLB, you said it was like an 8-game suspension. Is it an 8-game suspension?
80 game suspension.
80 game suspension.
If not more. It's like 50 or 80.
How many games in a year in a season?
80.
100. No, there's 162 games.
Okay, I was going to say.
So it's a half-year suspension.
80 sounded a lot.
Yeah, that's the first time. If you get caught a second time, it's more stringent, and then if you get caught a third time, I think you're out.
It's a intelligence test of if you continue to be stupid enough to get caught.
But here's the thing: athletes are getting smarter now. Look at Lance Armstrong. How many years did he get away with?
It's not the athlete
juicing.
getting smarter; it's the doctor that is helping them.
Exactly.
That is smarter.
But the athletes got the money
because it's the same guys who the doctors. I think there's a couple of guys. I think like Mo Farah. He had his track coach was previously convicted of giving steroids to other guys. And Mo Farah obviously said, like, I've never taken steroids, never would, like, no intention of it. But my track coach is really good at what he does, and that's why I'm with him. Like, because he teaches me to run. You're like, okay, like, this could be some kind of you could say it teaches you to run, but you were good at running before. But then also, but my point was that like there's an 80-game suspension, so a half-year suspension. So when they come back, if they're not taking steroids when they come back or performance-enhancing drugs,
their numbers typically go down.
Are they clean athletes, or are they still?
No, at that time they are clean.
They're performance-enhanced athletes.
Well, they get an asterisk for that season. I mean, Barry Bonds.
That season.
Barry Bonds' record will never stand, and it shouldn't, because Babe Ruth and Roger Maris did not have roids. They what was it, Andro? You remember Andro? Does anyone remember Andro in the early 2000s?
These guys, when were they around?
Babe Ruth was in 1915 to about 1932-ish. And then Roger Maris was in the 60s.
60s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Dude,
steroids.
Those
big.
No.
Yes.
With
Yes,
baseball players, they were teachers. They were school teachers. They couldn't even afford it back then.
Meg's just looking at me like
steroids were big. Steroids big were in the USSR.
Okay, so for you, that's such an American thing to say.
Oh.
That's such an American thing to say,
dude.
These are damn commies.
It's true. It wasn't damn commies. All right. Look, when you think of the American athlete, how they evolved. All right. All right.
I can't even hold that. That's so American. That's such an American
thing. Meg, hey, red, white, blue, green, black, red.
Yes,
little help from the smart one over here.
I've got nothing on this.
Like realistically, you got to look at the fact that, like, just the same as anything, when either Russia or America saw the other one doing something good, they were like, "I'm going to do it better."
Yeah.
So
we beat them in the space race. Yes. We got to the moon first.
Let's not get into the
just like we got better steroids too.
Okay. So, like, and I just try to say, I think if with regards to the Russians, obviously the Russians, like, it was obvious. You've got, like, in weightlifting and things like that. Then, like, yeah, you've got guys who are freaks of nature, who maybe didn't look like they were freaks of nature before or whatever. The amount of volume of their training programs, like in weightlifting, for example, is like almost impossible for anyone else to do unless they're genetic freaks. But like in America as well, like you've had tons of Americans who have been kind of popped for taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, 100%
in elite sport.
100%.
But I was asking was after they come back and then they no longer test for whatever substances that they pass the tests. Like, are you assuming that they're clean, or like if they're still performing at an elite level,
smarter, and there's something like not being tested?
My argument is that like these guys, this their livelihood. Like, say for example, like Tyson Gay.
I agree.
Tyson
100%.
Gay gets banned for 2 years from sprinting, comes back, he's in the final, and you're like, okay, like, so. Did the kind of performance-enhancing drugs only give him like 1%, so it moved him from 5th into 1st? Or actually, is he still taking it, but he's just not getting caught this time?
Taking something better.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Or something that isn't able to be tracked or isn't able to be tested. And it kind of comes full circle around back to kind of saying, like, at our level of sport, if you're testing someone, like, what's the difference between you kind of saying, like, okay, so this 40-year-old, he's clean right now, but he took steroids from the age of 20 to 30, but he's been clean for the last 10 years. Is he still eligible for competition because he has taken synthetic compounds?
I would say if he's clean, if your blood is clean, your hormone levels are normal, and you are at a normal level or a somewhat normal level of hormones. Like, look, if you're 40 years old and your testosterone scores are like in the thousands, that's not normal. True. Right, Meg? I mean, you're a hormone expert, but that's not
less on testosterone, but
that's not normal. You know, there's a certain level of normal. And look, I'm a guy. I took Winstrol when I was 22, 23 years old. You know, I tried it. I'm not going to lie about it. There's no damage in it. I tried it. You know, I was in the gym scene, and it was one of those things. My trainer was like, "Here you go. You lift more weight." I was stupid. The internet wasn't big then, and I jumped on it for about 3-4 weeks, and my strength went through the friggin' roof. I mean, I went from a 120 bench press to a 140 bench press in 3 weeks. Now, how much of it was mental, but how much was it?
So now, do you think you've lost all of that lean muscle mass gains that you made when you were taking?
Yes.
So is your argument that, like, because you've done it before, there's still some kind of effect of it even after you stop taking it?
There's definitely a physiological change
Yeah.
that happens whenever you start taking exogenous testosterone.
So you still always have kind of an advantage?
Yeah, so
I don't think so. I think once you stop, if you stop for a prolonged period, you'll probably have more of a disadvantage if you cycled off the wrong ways.
If you cycled off the wrong way. So we're talking about post-cycle therapy.
Yeah.
But again, like what I'm saying is if we imagine that this person has had like the best kind of pharmaceutical advice that they possibly could have, they've cycled off and their testosterone levels are normal, as we said. So we're talking about people who at the time of testing for our hypothetical competition, both competitors have the same levels of testosterone. But one had previously used extra testosterone for, say, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
My argument would be that actually, I wouldn't say that they're just as eligible to compete because I don't think they're a clean athlete because they've had physiological adaptations.
Maybe, yeah, that's true.
So put it in a better example would be like, say, athlete A who used testosterone for 10 years. He got insanely strong. He had the ability to deadlift 300 kilos, for example. Athlete B, same weight, everything like that, could only deadlift 150. If at that time he could deadlift 300, then the likelihood of him being able to be stronger in later years in life is going to be higher, right? So if they're both the same age or whatever, and one had taken testosterone, one hadn't, but one had got stronger through taking testosterone, then the likelihood that his ability to still deadlift that amount or an amount closer to it is likely to be there because he's going to have more muscle. His body's going to be more used to it. His bones might be better adapted to being able to handling the load. Mentally, he might be more comfortable.
Then you're getting into an argument of genetics and how quickly your muscles will atrophy afterwards. And some people, I'll tell you right now, when I quit, I quit working out for so long, partially because of when I tried Winstrol, because of the mental screw up that came along with it. Because when I stopped taking Winstrol, my power diminished and it killed me, because you're moving so far back behind. And when I was taking all these other supplements that were designer steroids off of a shelf, like once you stop taking that, you see a dramatic reduction in strength and power over a period of time. And I did not want that to be something that I focused on at the time. I was like, you know what? If I can't work out because of this, and I can't get over that mental gap, I'm done with it. And I'm going to be done for a while and drop it cold turkey. I'd rather do this than screw up my hormone levels, get bitch tits, all the above, just because I want to sacrifice for a physique that I'm not in a male physique competition. I'm not a bodybuilder. I wasn't a competitor at the time. I didn't need it. So I stepped away from it. I just, like right now with Instagram, people get too caught up with the body of it. People don't understand that some of these guys or girls that they see online, how many girls have a chiseled six-pack, Meg? Like chiseled six-pack.
Not a lot.
It's rare.
Yeah.
But you see it on Instagram all the time. And women have this dream of, oh, I'll have that. Even men have this dream of, oh, I'll have that. But genetically, you don't have their genetics. You don't know what supplements or gear they're on. I'm not taking anything away from them. There are people out there that are genetic freaks, and they could have that chiseled six-pack. They're just genetic. They have the genetics for it. I don't.
But it doesn't just happen just because of the genetics. That's a very disciplined
100%,
lifestyle, and you're sacrificing a lot to see it. Just have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
Yeah. And ultimately, I think what I'm trying to say is that I don't believe that sport in any way is fair.
Mm.
And by testing, I think we're making the assumption that even just because at that time of testing, the athlete is clean, that they have been clean the whole time. And because they're basically holding their hand up and saying, I've been playing fair, when actually the likelihood is they haven't.
It's possible, yeah.
So I think the possibility is high that they haven't, especially at an elite level.
Like the science of what happens, I guess, after you stop taking things, I'm not so in the know of that, but I do know that it is quite common of they know a general time frame of when they're going to be tested, and to kind of get yourself off of it at that point, for sure, there's a huge advantage that they've done the whole training process up to that. So, I would say it's not fair going into the competition if they've been juicing or.
I mean, steroids. I mean, CrossFit, and I'll use that as the most recent example.
And that's
the
kind of what I'm
athletes-
speaking of.
Yeah,
I guess,
the athletes they just caught. I mean, that was a harsh punishment. You know, what's her name? I forget her name, but she was screwing around with SARM. She said she kissed her boyfriend and she got it through that.
What?
Yeah, it was some cockamamie story like that.
my
Dude.
God.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I kissed my boyfriend and he gave me steroids. All right, really, lady? He might have given you something else, but I don't think
That's
it's just
freaking
that.
hilarious.
But
It was on the. I think I can't remember her name, but she basically said that it was on the night of competition. They like got intimate.
yeah,
and,
dude,
and
there's
he was
no
taking
way.
he was
Maybe.
taking SARMs. Like obviously as a
Right.
non-competing athlete, he
Yeah.
can do whatever he wants, no problem. And then they had a saliva test the next morning. And so
it's so
like,
bullshit.
That's about as legit as saying you can get pregnant from holding
I
hands.
know, right?
My God.
I mean, like it's a big shout, but
yeah. Like that's
it's a good
BS.
try as well. It's like it's a really
Was
good try. But like, yeah.
What
Like,
other
when you-
scenarios did you
when you-
circle around
yeah,
before
when you-
landing on that one?
But they handled it. I think CrossFit they went overboard with how they handled it, just because of the media backlash they were going to get, and you only saw it with a couple of athletes.
What do you mean
and-
they went overboard?
It was like a 4-year suspension or a 2-year suspension. Like it's a suspension where she's out of her prime when she comes back.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think
was like-
Ricky Garrard got 2 or 4. I can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah. Like
how many it was.
it's pretty. But even he came out later on and said, "Look, they're all using roids. They're all juicing." You know, and look, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because in Major League Baseball, they did the same shit. In the NFL, they do the same shit right now. In the Olympics, they do the same shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, because
Yeah.
we want to see we want to see this elite level perform. We want to see superhumans. Okay, we see the superhumans, but when it comes to me and I want to compete on an average level to someone that's not juicing, that's clean, so to speak, clean, and I use quotation thingies or whatever. But
Got the camera. People can see. No?
no, I didn't press play. But it's like, dude, if you're going to have a competition, have one for that elite level and be like, hey, dude, you know what? Gloves are off. Use whatever the hell you want. Do what you want to do to your body. It is your God-given right.
Science project.
Yeah. Do you want to? You want to be the Incredible
That's what it is
Hulk?
at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's
But-
it's generally that.
But it takes away from me. If I go into, I'm doing the CrossFit thing in January. It's crossed my mind. I'm not gonna lie. It's crossed my mind to maybe I take a cycle beforehand. At least I'll level the playing field a little bit, and I'll finish in the top 10 percentile. But is it really worth it?
I don't think it is leveling the playing field, really, is it?
It's not. But at least I'm getting into that. At least it will get me into the top 20%.
I think probably what a lot of this is based off is the fact that they think that performance enhancing drugs, by value of taking them, are gonna make you better. Like, okay,
they will make you stronger. That's scientific.
They'll
They
make
will.
they'll make you stronger. But if you don't lift to if you don't do strength training, then it's not going to enable you to lift. You're not going to go from lifting 100 kilos, not doing any
but the dude on the couch isn't
and
going
then-
to sit there shooting up.
Yeah, but without doing the work, ultimately, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think what I'm trying to say is I think it's based a lot of people thinking that just by taking this, then it's a quick fix to success. Whereas ultimately, these elite players didn't come from, they're not an overnight success. No person in the elite spotlight is an overnight success. They're the ones who are literally 24/7 working to perfect their craft, because anyone can take steroids. Anyone can take performance enhancing drugs. They're readily available from anyone. You've probably only got you could ask a friend and he'll know someone.
Well, in Kuwait, they're readily available. Just go to your nearest gym.
Anywhere, anywhere in the world, you can probably ask a friend and he can get you some stuff. It's just from a friend or whoever. But ultimately,
in Kuwait, you can go to the
can
pharmacy
take it.
and grab it now.
Yeah.
No, seriously, it's that messed up. We're in Kuwait.
It's
You go to the
awful.
pharmacy, and there's a gym that is one of the biggest in Kuwait. I won't say the name of it because I don't want to piss anybody off. But literally, you walk out, you're stepping on needles.
Yeah.
You're stepping on needles, dude. My kids walk around there.
So an argument to this would be, with the prevalence that we know that there is of performance enhancing drugs in Kuwait, how many people look good?
Yeah.
Not many. How
if
good is sport in Kuwait?
If you go to a specific gym, and I'm not going to name it, it's in Sabah Salim.
Not great.
Like, it's not great.
Yeah.
Like, because people aren't
bodybuilding,
doing sport.
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
No, bodybuilding.
Come on,
We'll have another one about whether
look
bodybuilding is
at
a
hold
sport.
on. Look at Big Ramy. Look at Big Ramy, dude. That guy's huge.
He's Egyptian.
But where does he train? Where does he train?
Yeah.
Kai, where does Kai come to? Kai comes to Kuwait, right?
Understand.
We really do have the best steroids in the world.
Bodybuilding ultimately, like, we haven't talked about
It's its own
bodybuilding
animal.
once as a sport.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about it.
I don't know whether it's a sport or not.
It's definitely not a sport.
I want to get my roommate on to talk about bodybuilding
Oh,
with you guys.
we need to
Yeah.
get him on. We definitely need to get him.
Yeah.
But sport-wise, like, if we know that there's so much drugs and performance-enhancing drugs available in Kuwait, like, how many Kuwaitis are at the top of weightlifting, are at the top of sprinting, at the top of whatever it might be?
But they don't have the work ethic. A majority of them, they don't. I mean, bodybuilding, CrossFit is relatively new in Kuwait. We've talked about that before. Weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting is also relatively new in Kuwait. We've talked about that before. So the experience, we lack that experience. It's like taking Kuwait and saying, hey, here, go play baseball. We lack that experience in baseball just as we do in CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting. But when you give some of these athletes, when they'll take roids, they might move up from 45th to 25th, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Right? All right, take me, for instance. If I go on a cycle right now, okay, and I were to go do a WOD I do today and I finish it in, say, 15 minutes, right? For time. 5 rounds for time, I finish it in 15 minutes. 4 or 5 weeks from now, after my cycle or during my cycle, when I'm at my peak, if I do that same WOD, okay, if I do my roids smart and I, get my peak and all this stuff, how much time do you think I'm going to shave off? With everything's equal, all is the same. How much time do you think I will shave off? I guarantee you I'll shave off a decent amount of time.
You'll shave off a decent amount of time, but also you're not without kind of making sure that your food is right, making sure that you're stretching. Like, there's a whole lot of
but if you're going to do steroids and you don't do that,
You're saying the only difference is the steroids. Your nutrition, your stretching,
everything's all the same. Everything's the same.
only difference is
To your point, you just said if you don't do that when you do steroids, then, like, you're stupid. Then the actual kind of impact of buying and, like, starting on a cycle is making you do other behaviors to help your performance. So you're making sure you're sacrificing going out. Like, you're not going out to go and
look,
smoke shisha all the time, or you're spending more time training because you're like, well, I've invested my body into this performance enhancing drug cycle, whatever it is. And then you're going, okay, I'm going to make better food choices because you're like, well, I spent however much it is on a cycle, so I'm going to make sure that I get full advantage of it with food choices.
Well, you're going to make.
How
the
much
right
does it happen on
choices.
the other side, though, is when you're investing in the movement and the food and all those things, and you're not getting the results that you want to see, and then you turn to the performance enhancing to boost those other things.
Yeah, no, I'm without a doubt, there's definitely a boost. But
there's a big boost, dude. There's a big boost.
The percentage differs depending on, like, how good someone is initially. Like, someone is not going to go from sitting on the couch to being at the top of the CrossFit
you're
games.
right. No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm getting at. Okay, like, say if we were to do my idea that I was talking about earlier. Okay. And we're
taking steroid cycles.
Was that the idea?
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the episode. But at the end of the day, dude, look, I have.
Is that our new project?
I love it. Meg's kind of like, I'm just listening to this. You guys are idiots, and I'm just gonna sit here and let you idiots duke it out. All you need is like some boxing gloves, and Maddie needs a baseball bat, which I got like 3 bats here for him. All right, so I came prepared today, buddy. But at the end of the day, I mean, dude, look, steroids, it's an individual decision. It's your decision. But everyone needs to do the proper research before doing it so that they know what the consequences are afterwards. Some people do it and they come out of it clean with no issues whatsoever because they were smart about their off-cycling. They were smart about how much testosterone. You don't need 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week. I mean, there are guys that are shooting up 1,000 milligrams a week. That's insane. You're killing your body's natural production system, right? You're
totally tricking your body. And this is funny because actually this conversation actually came up recently at the car dealership. The guy who rents me my car, he knows I'm in fitness. And so he's always asking nutrition questions. And so the first few times it started off, what do I need to be eating during the day? And this last time I was there, he was like, my jaw and my face is getting bigger. And he's like, and before, my advice was like nutrition and stuff like that. And he's like, but it's only like here. And I told him, I was like, well, usually things that, happening around the jawline have something to do with like hormones. And his eyes kind of got really, really big. And I was like, are you taking something?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started off. And it's like, and he just has no idea, no education, but he just knows that he's like, well, I just want to do it as like I want it to get me to a certain point, and then I'll go off, and then I just have to maintain. And I was like, that's not exactly how it works. Like, you're tricking your body right now. So once you take that thing away, you can't just maintain what you had when you were on a drug. You're going to have some kind of a repercussion. There's going to be you're going to go backwards.
But it's like SARMs. I mean, right now, SARMs are friggin' big in Kuwait.
What are SARMs?
SARMs are, I don't even know, but it's bad shit.
Selective androgen receptor modulators.
It's bad shit because Big Pharma dropped majority of these.
Okay.
So, all these people kind of pick them up.
These are basically like, say you have a testosterone molecule, they'll change the bond, like one carbon bond on an atom to basically say like it's not now testosterone, but they can call it a different compound.
Exactly.
And so
dropped by Big Pharma because they were causing tumors and cancerous cells in rats and everything.
Right.
Now there are people that are shooting it in. We don't know the side effects. Just like steroids in the 90s and the 80s, we didn't know the side effects. And, like for the most part, D-ball, Winstrol, testosterone replacement therapy, it's safe for the most part if done properly. If done right, if cycled off, if you go to that doctor, there's a few doctors that are widely known in Kuwait that will test your hormones, test all these, to give you a whole bunch of tests, and they'll say, okay, look, you have, you have there's more of a likelihood for you to, develop cancerous cells or develop this or develop that if you go on this. Do those tests. Go the whole 10 miles. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying be safe about it.
So, if an older male is taking testosterone replacement therapy,
hey, baby, when I'm 50 years old, I'm going on testosterone, right?
Okay,
I want to feel like I'm in my 20s.
So if they're having doctor prescribed testosterone replacement therapy,
there's nothing wrong with it,
and they want to do a competition.
No, dude.
Why?
Because it's not fair.
But what if it's bringing them up to normal levels of testosterone?
It is not fair, though.
But what if it's bringing them up to normal levels of testosterone?
It's like taking a Toyota Corolla then a Camaro, and then giving the Toyota Corolla NOS and boosting up the engine so it's like 600 horsepower. It's not fair, dude.
So is it fair for a 25 or a 20-year-old to compete against a 50-year-old?
No. But if the 50-year-old is dumb enough to go into that competition, then yeah.
Okay, so we have what, up to 35 in the games?
Yeah.
Yeah?
And then
so you got those 18, 19-year-olds, like, blood boiling with testosterone, like peak of their lives. Like,
but they don't have the experience. They don't have all the other things that go along with it.
So you're saying there's other things that are important for performance?
Yes, of course there are. No, I don't know. No, I've been saying
I think we can end it there. I think we can end it there, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the Project Kuwait.
No, look, I will definitely say
on Instagram.
100%. If you don't have a certain skill set, then steroids won't do shit for you. But if you have that skill set and you are an athlete and you do take steroids, you are going to get better. I mean, there are so many examples. I mean, there are so many examples from Major League Baseball.
Don't you just feel like shit when you've like accomplished something then, knowing that like it wasn't you that did it? I don't know.
Well, I guess, but that's what the argument is, isn't it? It's like, really, is it you who's doing it? Like, I would say, like, just the same as anyone else. Yes, it is. Like, because actually, it's most people don't kind of grow up going, okay, I'm going to test my testosterone, like, because some people are going to have more.
Right.
And so you're like, well, is that me, or was it my parents? Like, maybe my dad used to take steroids and now I'm born with a higher amount of testosterone. Like, maybe that happened.
But there are freaks of nature, though.
And that's something to talk about, the implications of, I know we've gotten into before about taking testosterone and what that does for passing on, like, to the kids, or what that does for, like, we were talking Mr. Olympia has 8 girls. We're like, what does that do with your hormones? And
exactly.
And,
like, that's a big reason why I wouldn't take steroids now. I want to have more kids, like, dude. I don't want to.
The Rock has 3 girls. I'm just saying, like,
dude, it makes sense though. But it makes sense.
The Rock's a good looking dude.
It makes sense. But The Rock and all these athletes, the ones who did get caught, Lance Armstrong, they all had a physical advantage anyways. They were all gifted in this sport, like Michael Phelps. Like, they were just gifted. naturally gifted for.
Was he on performance enhancement?
No, he wasn't. He got
was
caught
just
for
smoking
weed. I think.
Yeah. I was like, that is not performance enhancement.
But honestly, with
Guy won
the
like
Olympics,
50,000 gold medals.
all I want to say is
He's
watch.
14 to
Dude, watch Icarus. Icarus is a good example. It talks about the Soviet steroid, the Russian steroid.
I saw that. Yes,
yeah, dude, that's a really good thing to watch.
Yeah.
And there's you can order a how do I say this properly you can order a fake penis with urine, okay, so you don't fail your piss test.
Yeah.
Look, there was an old athlete, big country. I used to play softball with him. He used to have a softball bat that was shaved on the inside and rolled. What that does is if you hit the ball, it adds another 50 or 60 feet to the ball.
Oh, shit.
And he was from Texas, and he used to say, "You ain't trying if you ain't cheating."
Ah.
All right, because
no, but here's sport,
here's the thing. It's true. It's true because look, even in baseball, when I was a catcher and everything, I would try and steal signs. I would try and get any physical advantage I could get. Would I have done steroids in college? No. It wasn't.
Is that just because of the moral implication of taking steroids?
Yes,
I think that's the only reason why most people don't do it. It's just because they feel like people are going to have a go at them if they do, but people don't have a go at them if they're like drinking protein or they're kind of like they're eating more red meat or anything like this. Like
supplements in general, like you just don't know what. There's no regulation on them. Anything can get it. So I know in swimming, like nationals, we were terrified. Our coach was like, don't even drink Gatorade before, you know, like your race or anything, because as soon as you touch the pad, if you finish anywhere in the top or just randomly, you're pulled out of the water and you don't get to go to your bag. You don't get to do anything. They take you to the bathroom and they watch you pee. And that was, and if you can't go, I mean, they'll just sit there with you all day until you go and you, that was awful. But, I remember being so nervous and I hadn't taken anything. I wasn't even, not even like my protein shakes, vitamins, nothing, because you're just so freaking scared of what could be in those things that might pop up.
It's a confidence in your plan, isn't it? So like for those guys who like, say you've got a guy who is like worth nothing, like he's just the only thing he's good at is being an athlete, and he's literally he lives in some basement somewhere.
Football players, American football.
Yeah,
no,
like
American
literally
football
they come out of the slums. Like there's like nothing. Like, so they have nothing.
Yeah,
right.
So the only way for them to like change their lives and the lives of their family members is to succeed.
Right.
Like if it was me, I would freaking everything that I could possibly.
I agree.
I would take even the slimmest chance that I could increase by 0.5%, because on my 40-meter dash, like 0.5% is the difference between a $1 million contract and a $12 million contract.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the difference between like your mum like driving a car that she wants or your mum having to take the bus to work. So like if you could do that, then like it's just the moral implications. And I think when it gets down to it, the elite athletes like have less morals around what they're willing to do to succeed.
There was a poll that was run amongst Olympic athletes that said if you could win a gold medal and then die in the next 5 years, would you do that, or would you want to live a long and healthy life? And they all said win the gold medal. Which makes sense. I mean, look, American football is the best example of being stupid. All right? No, seriously. The movie Concussion, like when has a Will Smith movie not gotten that much attention in media? Because it was going up against the NFL. The NFL is a supergiant, and it's run by idiots, played by idiots.
Brain injury.
Yeah, you're dead. Look at the statistical facts. Yeah. Look at the stats of guys
in general.
Yeah. Like, but you sacrifice longevity.
But there are some high, like baseball.
And
I mean, baseball is easy. You don't get.
Sorry, Athlete Daily had a post the other day on Instagram about CrossFit, saying actually as soon as you start competing at elite level in CrossFit, you have to admit that you're sacrificing longevity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, and so when we're kind of talking, we've obviously are talking, and we have talked about CrossFit and whether it's healthy for you and whether you're doing it and things like that. And we've got someone who's come out from you saying that actually once you're doing elite level CrossFit, you can't keep doing it because it's something that's going to take years off your life.
Yeah. Stacey Tovar, who competed for 8 years, she'll talk about that openly of like, I've got, injuries in my knees and shoulders and things that Yeah,
but I think at the end of the day, athletes are getting smarter. Yeah. Like by year, us athletes in general, the resources we have now compared to 5 years ago,
right?
It's amazing. It's
in general. There's still, she's still got things that she would have never have experienced in her body if it wasn't for
5-6
driving
years ago
for
was
the
prehab out.
Yeah.
You know, all these prehabs, rehabs,
All the
taking
elite
care
guys,
of
the
your
top
body
guys.
and doing all the stuff that's out now. No, I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we weren't warming up. Our warm up literally in baseball consisted of 2 laps around the field and then go throw.
But then all of that comes top down. Like, so elite sports players have been doing that, like, intuitively.
But it's been progressing since the 1920s. I mean, if you, I go back to baseball because that's what I know. You know, that's what I know a lot about. And, you know, Babe Ruth, you know, used to go to games drunk. He used to show up at the field drunk and still walk away hitting 2 or 3 home runs.
Yeah.
And then progressively it was getting better. Even in Mickey Mantle was, you know, he was a booze bag, you know, like they know about that.
It's exactly the same in football in the UK. Like, there's plenty. Like,
but now when you look at these elite athletes that may have, you know, if you compare them to the drinkers and the smokers and all of that, look at the elite level athletes now. They're doing cryo. They're doing cold baths. They're, you know, doing all this probably if it enhances their game to win, they might be.
But sorry for interrupting you there, but
No,
I think,
you're fine. You're all right.
my point was that actually, like, whereas before it was alcohol, like, now you're getting more and more guys, like, even at the top level rugby players, like guys who are generally quite homely and stuff like that. More guys are being popped in rugby for cocaine abuse. Like, than performance enhancing drug
That doesn't
abuse.
surprise me, yeah.
Like, so, and that's
Maradona.
That's rugby players, like, big guys, like, not party boys. Like, they might maybe go out 2 or 3 times a year, something like that. Like, they're sacrificing drinking alcohol and going out with their friends and stuff like that year round for performance. And yet, sometimes these guys come back to training because they can be tested anytime as long as they're not injured. Then they're getting popped for methamphetamine abuse. Do you mean? So it's like things like that and weed and things like that, like, where people are kind of going, like.
Have you ever heard those stories about Olympic Village? Like, after these people finish the Olympics, like,
that's the reason I want to go to the Olympics.
The shit that goes on in there. It's like, finally let your hair down after years of just
And these are guys who, like, year round don't do anything, and then they're like binge abuse their body like over one night or 2 nights.
But to wrap it up, I want to deliver a message to the kids, because there are some of the kids that, you know, that I've coached over years. They're listening to this podcast. Guys, you don't need to do steroids. You don't need to take supplements. You don't need any of that. I would recommend a balanced diet. If you get to that elite level and you want to seek out a doctor's opinion, go ahead. But don't go and buy something off of the trainer at your gym, because odds are it's either going to be fake or expired, which was going around in Kuwait for a while.
It's very likely to be harmful.
It's very likely to be harmful. So stay away from it. Stay away from, if you're under a certain age, stay away from this stuff. And if you're above a certain age, just be smart about it. I have nothing against it. If you want to, you know, chop off your arm, go ahead. It's your body. But it is. So I have nothing against it. I have nothing against steroids. Hell, I even said when I'm 50, I'm probably going to do testosterone replacement therapy because I want a better quality of life at that age. And right now it's been proven, right? I mean, you hear the stories of these guys that are like, yeah, I'm on testosterone replacement.
It's in a lot of support, like you're saying, though, with the hormone testing and with understanding, you know.
And longevity now, too.
Yeah.
So there's research that's coming out. But
it's like you're saying, it's not coming from the trainer at the gym that just, you know, wants you to look.
Ultimately, it's risk versus reward, right? So, like, it's each individual case has to sum up basically knowing the amount of risks. And I think that's what we're trying to get at, is like saying there are tons of risks that are associated with, like, elite level performance, but also with performance enhancing drugs. And do those risks outweigh the rewards, or are they less than rewards? And, like, for each individual person, that's going to differ, because some people are going to be like, I love baseball, I'm really good at baseball, but I don't want to play baseball. And they're like, I'm quite happy sitting at home with the family. Like, need to be taking these risks. Like, actually, maybe not. But then there's going to be guys out there who are like, I want to be the best. It doesn't matter what it takes. I want to be the best baseball player, best swimmer, best whatever.
They'll go to those extents. They'll go to,
and we're trying to say, I guess, it's got to weigh up those risks and rewards and make sure that you're seeking support and advice that are conducive to those.
And before we sign out, if you are ever competing against me and you are juicing and I am not, I will break your kneecaps. Hands down. All right. I will come after you with a baseball bat. Snap both of your legs. All right. All right.
And if that wasn't scary enough,
actually, you know what? I'm going to send Liam after you. Okay? He'll hold you down. All right. And then we'll have Meg work you back in physiotherapy. She'll work you back up so you can walk again.
After your major trauma.
We'll repair you.
Or, hey, wait, Meg's the smart one. She can tell us how to snap those legs a little easier.
So I can repair them.
But no, I mean, look, if you're going into a competition and it's supposed to be clean, stay clean.
Yeah.
I think this was a fun episode. You know, and kids don't do roids. Okay, kids don't do roids. All right, you don't want to do that stuff. You don't want your
drugs are bad. Okay,
drugs are bad in general. Drugs are bad in general. You know, we're gonna call this no drugs.
We say we're not going to do statements, but it's cool. Wait,
we're not going to do statements?
That's it.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, guys. Have fun with this one.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at the Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.